More minute here. We're going.
Items on the bridge monitoring. James does have a full presentation that he'd like to give. Reserve a little bit of time for that.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the June 8th.
I just wrote 5-8 and I crossed it out of my paper too.
The months are going too fast. Of the Hood River White Salmon Bridge Authority. Up here, so we'll go ahead and do who's here. I see Grant Paulson online, Jake Edwards online, Catherine Thomas online, and anybody else from Hood River?
Arthur will be just a few minutes late.
Okay. And for Washington, I see Jacob Anderson online, myself here in the room. We have Mark here in the room, Ben in the room, and I think that puts myself, Jake, and Mark as the voting boss.
That is correct. Hi, this is Kelly.
Thank you.
And Grant, Catherine, and Jake for Washington.
Still trying to pull them
Yes.
up here.
And then if Arthur comes back in, then he'll take over.
Yes.
Right. Thank you, Kelly. Got your agenda here. So are there any modifications or just additions to the agenda? Hearing none, we'll proceed as presented. Minutes from the meeting of May 27th. Does anybody have any comments?
I do. Chair, wondering, on the last page of the minutes, so page 5, it has that the commission was back into regular session at 4:06 p.m. and then it said we adjourned at 4:24. I'm just wondering for our governance, is it standard to not have anything really accounting for those 18 minutes? Or is there anything we need to add?
Yes, actually, if you go back up and you look at the action items, there's part 2 of the recording that picks up where that time went for the second part of the executive session. So it is noted there, and I believe there was another section under informational as well.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Chair, one thing on the agenda. I know we passed that, but I was looking the 6F, if we want to have a discussion on that, do we need to add that somewhere on the agenda?
Yes, let's do that. Down at new business, can we do that? Maybe right after the action item for the public budget. Okay, so we close that, we can get into that. Okay, thank you. So I would entertain a motion. If your questions are answered, Catherine.
So moved.
Make a motion to accept the minutes from the May 27th meeting.
Thank you.
Second.
Do we have Catherine? I think said something. Was that a second or a motion, Catherine?
I think Commissioner Anderson seconded.
Okay, thank you. Apparently not hearing. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye. Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. So we have an opportunity for public comment, 3 minutes per person, 30 minutes total. We have one person here in the room. Would you care to comment? No. Do we have anybody online that would care to comment? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to executive reports. Co-chair report. Grant, do you have anything?
Nothing for me this time, thanks.
All right, thank you. I don't have anything, so
All right.
we'll throw it right to you, Michael.
So on the tribal coordination, one of the key items has been the MOA with Umatilla and the communications protocol. So myself and Herb met with Misty Thorsgaard and Aaliyah, their FHWA's legal advisor, last week and revised the communications protocol that was sent back out to FHWA for their follow-up review. If there's no additional comments on that from them, then that will go out to that'll be the base that we send out to the rest of the tribes. So we basically just cleaned it up, got it to a point where we're all comfortable. We added some language around defining fishing seasons and some clarity around the safety zones, converting it over to 3 safety zones from what we had previously as I think it was 12, just for simplicity in communications, and then some escalation protocols for if there's a violation or something, who do we call and how do we escalate the conversation. So hopefully that will help the communications protocol move forward. And then we have a meeting this week with them to look at the Umatilla agreement to determine if there is any language modifications that need to happen that would need to go back for Umatilla to re-sign. The goal is to not have to do that. What I think we're going to end up doing, if there is any communications that needs to go back, is we will just go do a presentation to their council and update them through that process. That won't happen until after we do the additional cultural resource work that we need to do. So we're probably looking at August, September timeframe to be ready to do any kind of signature on that Umatilla agreement. So, but we did make some progress last week and this week on that. We continue to coordinate with ODOT on the STIP and the CDS. So I don't know if Rob, if you've got any update related to that, or is it still in legal review?
They're working on it.
Okay.
I have a meeting tomorrow on the agreement for the CDS funds. And then the STIP, I think they're just they have time before they really have to get to it. So they want to put it in the queue.
And one of the critical things in that is getting some funding on the right-of-way phase. So that was one of the things that we worked with Rob to do, was to get the right-of-way phase shown as funded and open up that right-of-way phase with money that's available. So it kind of goes, the CDS and the STIP all kind of go together, as well as getting authorization to move forward with right-of-way is all tied to that. So so once one thing goes, all of those things will resolve themselves through a short process. So bridge monitoring, I'm going to skip that. We're going to get an update from James. He's got a presentation we'll do during the informational items. The test pile location or test pile plan, we did lock down the locations of the test pile. We're still working on the test pile plan. We've worked through some insurance questions on that. We need to set up a meeting with the Port of Hood River within the next couple weeks to bring in their GEC HDR to talk about how the existing bridge would react to any impacts. And we need to work on the development of a baseline based on the data that we're getting out of the bridge monitoring plan. So that is all still in discussions.
Can I ask a question about that? So I have it in my notes, and correct me if I have this wrong, that the bridge monitoring is conditional on kind of a timely award of the CDS funds. Is that's still accurate, or is that?
The bridge monitoring is not reliant on the CDS. It is reliant on the Phase 1A funding. So if you remember, we extended the Phase 1A through the end of June. That is where Kiewit is doing their bridge monitoring work. So we met with them on Friday of last week. They are making some progress on the last couple.
Did I say bridge monitoring?
You did.
Sorry, I meant the test pile.
Yes, I'm sorry. The test pile plan is pending the CDS money as well as any underruns on the project.
Okay.
So right now there is no funding identified for the test pile program. So we will have to determine how we want to spend that money. Or find the money that we want to spend on that test pile program. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So, and then, yes, on the monitoring plan, though, just follow up on that. That is something I think we talked about last week, is that their contract for completing that work is only extended through end of June. We met with Kiewit last Friday on that, went through that, gave them that message that, the authority's not looking to extend that contract. They've made some progress they've got 2 monitors now. They've ordered replacements for those. They're coming out, I think, this week and next week to do the installs, to get those done. And then James will walk through the rest of the details on that.
Okay.
So, they're making good progress towards, I think, getting very close towards the end of the month being done. So,
Okay, thank you.
Well, Friday meeting was not a one-off meeting. We have a standard
continuing. Yeah.
weekly meeting to check in what progress they're making.
Yeah.
They're getting close to the end of the contract term, which is made it clear that the authority is not interested in extending anymore.
On the funding, we're still waiting on the fiscal year 26. There's still rumors coming out of DC that that's going to be towards the end of the summer, September-ish timeframe. We'll see how that all plays out. There's also information coming out of there about potential new funding or extending the current funding. So we'll continue to monitor that. Carrie's been monitoring that very closely. Carrie, you got anything else on that? Have you heard anything new?
Haven't, unfortunately.
And the CSRA, just keep reminding everybody that that's coming. So it's the 4th, 5th, and 6th of August. We're developing an agenda schedule. So we met this morning and talked about a rough schedule for those days. We'll get calendar invites out next week. We've got a meeting on Friday to go through the risk register to get it in a format that they need for the CSRA. So you should see the ones who will be attending. You'll see invites next week to that. So we'll get that going. We just got off a call with Kiewit. They're 60% will come in sometime tonight. So as soon as that comes out, that'll get started we'll circulate that around. So it's a 60% on the main package, which is all the civil work, and then 30% kind of over the shoulder on the substructure and foundation work. And then the 60% substructure and foundations will come in late July timeframe. We'll have 28 days to review it. So we'll get it out to not only our internals, if you want to look at it, let us know. If you don't, you're not expected to look at it. But we will review it. We've got our SMEs reviewing it. We will send it out to the agencies to review. They also are sending in the 30% or sent in last week. It's in cyberspace between getting from them to us, is the 30% BNSF submittal. So that is also going in. So that'll get first real formal review of the whole package for BNSF. So far the conversations with BNSF have went really well. So hopefully that will continue. Everybody looks at me kind of sideways when I tell them that the BNSF stuff's going well, but it is. They've been very good so far. So hopefully that continues. And I think that's the main pieces. So the next couple of weeks we'll be reviewing the 60% and seeing where we're at. And by the end of that, and then we get through the CSRA. So around the end of August, we will have a very good check-in point of where we are on a 60%, as well as our cost estimate, risk schedules, all of that at the end of August. So that'll be an important time for us to be able to really lock down and see where we're at this point. So that's
Chair, I have a question if you don't mind. Mr. Shannon, can you, so thank you so much. This is a very great report. I just wanted to point out that the thoroughness. If somebody reads it, you can be really caught up to where we are in the project. So I really do appreciate that. Bringing your attention to page 11, you mentioned bullet point, it says 5/27/2026 update. The authority commissioners affirm the ports quit claiming any rights to historic alignment parcel, blah, blah, blah. Can you explain what that means in plain language, please?
I may have to, I don't think Kennan's on. I may have to get the right-of-way legal to give you an actual response to that. That
Okay.
was,
I think we discussed that briefly, and it was about not trying to dig into the actual legal basis of the little parcel that
yes.
the port that owns out in the middle of the river,
Yeah.
and instead just do a quick claim,
quick claim deed
to resolve that issue, rather than trying to chase it down.
Yeah, so if you remember the little strip of land that the port owned that went across the BIA property, we submitted that to BIA. They came back and said, thanks, but yeah, we own it. Rather than really going down that rabbit hole. I think our lawyers and others have said just, the easiest path to that is just talk to the port about quick claiming it over to them. If we fight it, we're going to lose anyway. So I think we had that conversation. That looks like that's the direction we're going to go. So it's cleaning up some old paperwork.
Thanks. I just never seen that term before, and I was in the notes, so I just wanted to point out. And then the other question is, and this might be directed to Christy, but is the meeting with NIMS the same person, or do we have a new, speaking to the environmental permitting, is it a new NIMS person, or is it the same individual we've met with over the last 18 months?
Christy, did you hear that?
She just joined, so.
Oh, she just joined. She may not have heard your question, Catherine.
And I joined as you were asking your question. I guess my ears were burning. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Directing you to page 13 of the executive or the project manager's report. We talk about the meetings coming up with NIMS. So I'm just wondering if it's the same individual we've been working with, or if it's a new person, just because of.
Right. So as far as the FHWA liaison goes, that's Cindy Callahan, and that has not changed in the past 4 years. And we're very lucky to have her. She's a FHWA person who manages both the Seattle or I should say the Seattle area and Portland area FHWA liaison relationship to NOAA NIMS.
Okay.
Unfortunately,
great.
on the National Marine Fisheries side, we do not know who the point of contact will be at this point. They're still working that out. Cindy has set up a meeting for FHWA and NOAA NIMS to meet. And that's one of the things that they have on their topic is who on the fisheries side will take on the project moving forward.
Thanks.
That any other questions on Michael's report? Mark, I think I saw you there somewhere. Mark Greenbauer.
Sorry, trying to find my microphone button. I have no update from what we gave to you at your last board meeting 2 weeks ago.
Was that no update? Sorry. Thank you, Mark. And government relations, do you have anything to add, Dan?
We've got two of our lobbyists on, Maddie from Thorn Road and Jim from Summit.
So, Maddie, do you want to start?
Hi, good afternoon, Commissioners. Maddie Doe, Senior Vice President at Thorn Run Partners. I am one half of your Salem, Oregon lobbying team. You've seen my colleague Dan Bates on prior updates. Happy to give a quick update about where we are. As you all have heard and likely seen in the press, the governor has been embarking on an interim transportation work group. It was announced shortly after the conclusion of the session, and so they've had their first meeting and subgroups are underway. And they will have 9 meetings between May and November. And this is really the start of a new iteration of the transportation package for Oregon. And so, as you all maybe saw in your primary election ballots on the Oregon side, the 2025 transportation package was referred to the voters. It was rescinded. And so, legislators and stakeholders are reigniting on conversations about a transportation package ahead of the next session. Just to flag for you all what the 6 subgroups are, they're going to be topics on maintenance and preservation and emergency response, community livability and safety, major projects, transit, freight mobility, and funding and finance. I will note the major projects are focused on the named projects from House Bill 2017. Thorn Run is monitoring all of the work groups and all of the discussions just to make sure we are closely monitoring the conversations. And we're not expecting any mentions of our bridge, but closely monitoring those conversations just to see where it might relate. And of course, if the Hood River White Salmon Bridge does come up. By and large, we're seeing the same problems and themes as last 2 years ago, how to really balance operation and maintenance, how to make sure ODOT has a balanced budget while also prioritizing other state goals in the climate and sustainability and transit space. And so those meetings are just starting, the subgroups are just starting, and we will make sure to keep you all updated on that front. Next week, the legislature is convening for their quarterly interim legislative days, Monday the 15th through Wednesday the 18th. One of the themes that legislative leadership in Oregon is encouraging legislators to really dig in on is implementation. And so they have asked committee chairs to pick a handful of bills that have been recently passed in the last biennium, so 2025 and 2026, and to ask agencies for an update back. And so we have learned that the Transportation Committee is going to be looking into the recently passed jurisdictional transfer legislation. And we're also anticipating some presentations related to medium and heavy duty trucking, gas pricing, alternative sources of energy, and EV rebates. Again, nothing too specific to the bridge, but just making sure that you all know what's happening in the larger transportation ecosystem. And then, as you all know, we're in an election year, and so just so you have the stats, we will have 13 new legislators ahead of next session, and so 9 Republicans, 4 in the Senate, 5 in the House, and 5 Democrats, 2 in the Senate, 3 in the House. We have new legislators for a variety of reasons. Folks are retiring, many are seeking higher office. And one senator did lose their primary election to a challenger. And so there'll be, and 2 of those, there'll be a new senator to represent the project, and there also will be a new House representative to represent the project as well. And so lots of education on the bridge and the great work done thus far ahead of us heading into the next session, and also just making sure that everything stays on track, which I'm sure Mike Shannon is happy to hear that we're just trying to keep the trains going. And so we will keep you all updated, but the primary election just concluded earlier in the month, and then we will know who our new project delegation is heading into the session, but we won't know who our new senator and our new representative is until the general in November. But that's it from Oregon. Happy to take any questions or hand it over to Summit.
Any questions? All right, thank you, Maddie.
Thank you.
Sorry, Dan was.
We've got Jim Cole. He'll be joining by audio.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah.
Hi,
Yes,
Jim.
thanks. Thank you. Yeah, and I apologize for not being able to be in front of the computer here and on screen at some meetings on Capitol Hill. Just a kind of a quick report. I mean, obviously our focus is really on pushing forward on the BIP grant and our application, and doing a lot of follow up from the PMWA meeting that we had Commissioner Berger and Thomas at earlier this year, right? May or June. I'm losing track already. So big news in the last week or so is we've worked closely with Senator Merkley's office as well as Congresswoman Dexter, to prep them to make phone calls to Federal Highway Administrator McMaster in support of the BIP application. Both of them had positive conversations. Obviously, not a lot of information, still in review. But obviously, great to have them weighing in and advocating on our behalf. We also worked with Senator Merkley's team to prep him because Administrator McMaster appeared before the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee earlier last week. And he was able to lead right off with the advocacy for the project and did a nice job laying out the importance of the project and the BIP grant to complete the financing package. And obviously did a great job advocating for that. Again, as you would expect, the administrator really didn't tip his hand, but it's good to have that out there publicly, laying out the need for it. Also doing a lot of work over the last couple of weeks in terms of trying to generate additional industry support and get them letters, have them submit letters into the USDOT in support of our application. Working closely with PNWA on the wheat growers and the barge operators to try to get them to transmit the letters in on our behalf to USDOT. Also working closely with Commissioner Barger on trying to get the UAS industry to did I cut out there? Sorry. Sorry about that. So trying to get them to engage both USDOT as well as potentially the Department of Defense, Department of War on behalf of and the importance of the project and the growth in that industry and how important the project would be to that continued growth. So, a lot of, the focus has just really been exclusively on trying to generate support. We don't anticipate that the BIP awards will be announced until some point later this summer. No real timetable at this point, but we're definitely, heading towards that final review. So it's important to get all this information in front of DOT and try to keep it kind of steady drumbeat of that support in front of them as they start to make their final decisions. Happy to take any questions, but that's been the big focus of what we've been working on here over the last 3 weeks.
Thank you, Jim. Anybody have any additional questions for Jim before we move on? Okay.
Eric, if I could share forward from Brad Boswell on the Washington side. Brad's working through scheduling project updates with state legislators. We do these periodically. We've already had one this month with Senator King, and we have another scheduled with Senator Paul Harris. There's 2 more district representatives that Brad will be working to schedule, as well as an update with the government staff.
Thank you. All right. Partner updates. Rob, we got your information unless you have something else to add. Let's see Christina this time.
Nothing else.
All right, thank you.
Oh, wait, I did send something back about a plan review. Michael, I think I put you on that. Did you have any questions on that?
No, not at this time, but I need to go look for it.
Okay.
It was just the logistics of how to get documents to ODOT to review the plans.
Oh, yeah, I think Kelly was on that.
I don't remember who.
Yeah.
Okay, just let me know if you have any questions.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Rob. I don't think we have any other partner updates.
Amanda.
Oh, there we go.
Amanda with Port of Hood River, we have a bridge closure happening tomorrow at 11 a.m. for a bridge lift.
They've got a bridge closure at 11 a.m. tomorrow. It's a bridge lift. Said she'll call if it doesn't go back down.
This is true. Yep.
Thank you, Amanda.
Thanks.
So I think that gets us down to our invoice approvals. Consent agenda. I think there was one item in there that didn't have an amount, the CDM Smith invoice, and that is $34,016.79. Anybody have any questions or comments?
Chair, I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. For a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I have just a note. Do we have any idea? A lot of these invoices are being paid by the pay-as-you-go toll revenue. Do we have an amount of how much is left in that account before we are approving about $22,000 in invoices?
Last time we reported it was about $500,000. Oh, Debbie, you can tell more accurately.
Yeah, I have not got a final number, but right now it's hovering right about 500,000. So there's another 500,000 that's available. We had a lot of cleanup of some early things that were charged to it that ended up actually being grant eligible, and so it's been revised significantly over the last month or so. And I will actually, in the next meeting, I will have an updated final official number, but it's hovering right around $500,000 right now.
Thank you, Debbie. And then just another question while we have you on. The invoice from Port of Hood River, that was $430. Is there another one that's, are we all paid up with the port, or have we accounted for all that money, or what's?
Yeah, so it's current, and we'll be getting, so that the one that's on the invoice approval for today was the April work that we did, and then we'll be getting the May one out real soon here. And so we will stay caught up now and make sure that each month you're getting the one for the prior month.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? So we have a motion and a second to approve this, approve the invoices. Those in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. So the committee report. Start with you again, Ben. All right.
Thank you. So we, like Mike said, we talked about the bridge monitoring update and got into the discussion about what our options are if the work not completed by June 30th. So that pending the report, we'll hear from James later, and if needed, we'll need to bring that to the next meeting for discussion with the full commission. And then we spent a lot of time going through at our last meeting, going through the insurance, which we recommended that there's 7 types of insurance that Kiewit is required. 12? Okay. There's 12 types of insurance that Kiewit's required. Was the 7 that they carry?
7 as a phase 1A and B, and is a entire program as a PDB. There are 12.
Okay, so there's a lot of different types of insurance. Importantly, one of them is specifically for the owners and contractors. So that is, in some of our prior discussions, we talked about, what sort of coverage do we have for things like if we do the test pile program and something happens. So there is $5 million of insurance that Kiewit has as part of the phase 1A project that they are maintaining specifically to protect the Bridge Authority and I believe HNTB would be underneath that. Is that correct as well? the contractor.
Not us.
Okay, you have your own, but other contractors that we may hire, which there's not very many of. And we recommended that a summary version of that presentation come to the full authority for visibility. It was very informative. We spent quite a bit of time as well going through the last financials, including the monthly report, the project cost estimate, and the P&L and our financials, and then wanted to look at kind of what the earn versus actuals were. So we got revised updates on that, and we're continuing to monitor that and looking forward to seeing kind of how that evolves, and kind of we were able to capture some of the positive trends that we talked about at the last meeting. We talked about sort of the need for the CDS funds and where those fit into the picture, as well as the BIP funds and infra, and kind of the use of grants, which is an ongoing conversation that we're working on, really dialing in the different scenarios and making sure that we're really double checking as we're starting to look at expiring some of our grants to make sure that we're sunsetting them all kind of in the right sequence and preserving funds where need be. We asked Debbie to go through the Port of Hood River loan and ARPA. So she kind of did an initial walkthrough on that. Obviously, there's still work pending on that. And we talked about ARPA expiring at the end of the year. So that'll be a significant one for the authority, because our working capital is currently coming out of ARPA. So that we have that as cash on hand, but we will not as of the end of the year. And so that will mean that we will be, our plan as of now is to use the TIFIA reserve funds on a temporary basis to pay back or to pay the invoices once they are approved, and then that money will be replenished when we're reimbursed. We've asked staff to put together an estimate of what we expect the maximum draw will be on that. And so we'll report that back to the full authority and kind of look at what worst case scenarios are and what cost of that will be in a loss of interest. I think there's also a piece that, depending on, as we're getting into scenario planning, we need to look at where to get our full TIFIA. That money will need to be in the TIFIA reserve. So we're looking at, we're still tracking towards $15 million needed for the TIFIA reserve. So there may be a point in there where that money needs to be in the TIFIA reserve and not being used for working capital. So we're starting to kind of get a little bit, ahead into some of those, like, we're a little bit of a ways out, but it's important to think about those, and we're
you have a plan.
Yeah, we want to make sure we have a plan and we understand exactly when we're going to get to that full TIFIA amount in our account, and making sure that all of those sort of pieces are lining up towards a full funding scenario, to where if we get BIP, that we're ready to action on it, and we have kind of all of the pieces in place.
And using that for working capital is mostly critical through the phase 1B. Once we get through 1B, then we're on to other things. So
we have a bigger
working
capital problem.
And we're working on that right now. I don't know if Kerry's still on, but he can give you an update. We've been reaching out to USDOT and FHWA. Kerry, you want to update that?
I'm not sure exactly what you need me to update there, Mike.
Just the outreach that you've done to USDOT related to pay on invoice, and we haven't got a lot of action back yet, but we've been reaching out to them about the pay on
We're
invoice.
in communication. We're in communication with USDOT, and we have not gotten answers to those two specific issues that we're working with them on. One, I think, is a done deal, but the other is the language that FHWA attorneys. This is the pay on invoice that the FHWA's attorneys actually gave us the language to insert into the agreement, and then it was transmitted to USDOT with the caveat that USDOT's attorneys would have to approve it, and that's kind of the point we're at right now, that the USDOT's attorneys are going to have to go along with that. We've also just been kind of trying to keep the pressure on USDOT to move to at least approve the first $75 million tranche of that $200 million infra grant. You'll remember that the infra grant was broken into two separate tranches. One to get us through phase 1B, which we're doing without it, but the other is the last 125 million, and they wanted to reserve that until the full funding package came into view. But we would, we want to be, we want there to be as much federal investment as possible, as quickly as possible, because that increases our chance of more federal involvement to get it done.
Do you have any more, Ben?
That's the meat of it. We're working on kind of doing that scenario planning as well to make sure that, we really have, as well as possible, kind of the, different sort of, external, decision processes, external factors that are triggers mapped out as well as we can, so that we're prepared if we get BIP to action it, if we don't get BIP to action it, if we're still kind of in a holding pattern come October and miss our look like we're going to miss our in-water work window for 2027, or at risk for that, kind of what changes in each of those different scenarios, so that we can be as prepared as possible.
Okay, thank you. So engineering and construction is next. I'm going to try and go through that. I'm going to be a little bit abbreviated because we've talked about a lot of things that we've already heard today, the insurance, outreach in Washington, D.C., and some of those things. I think what's relevant that I'll kind of review, we checked the escalation graph that we've been tracking monthly. And I think what we're seeing is kind of the same trends that we have been seeing. Some things are flat, steel's high, fuel's high. And right now we're sitting somewhere below our overall target when we did our cost planning a year and a half ago. I think the one thing that raises a little concern is a lot of that under that offsets the over is in one category, and that's in equipment rental and equipment use for the building, which is more or less demand driven. So as things start to spin around, that's likely to change too. So
when you say under target, you mean the target you're referring to is sort of the maximum line that we don't want to exceed?
Correct.
Under target is a good
well, we had an estimate, and then we broke it down by certain commodities, and we calculated what we had in that estimate and the escalation that we had. And then we've been tracking these items against that. And right now, overall, we're under, not by a lot, but the gross majority of that negative number is in that equipment category. By several times. So that changes, that will change that whole equation very quickly. It's weighted, I guess is what I'm saying. I just lost you because I didn't shut up at the right time, didn't I? Christy gave us a wonderful permitting update, and I don't know that we're going to do that in detail today, but I think the takeaway there is everything is really starting to move the way Christy and her team have predicted it is. There's no wonderful things and there's nothing bad. So everything's just kind of tracking the way it is. So that's good. We talked a little bit about funding scenarios, a little bit about cameras and where we have them, don't need them, that sort of thing. And then we also took a look at the UN invoice that we approved a few minutes ago. So, and took no exception to that. So that's, I don't know, Michael, you were there. Did I miss anything?
Nope.
Okay. All right, so Arthur is not here, so I think what I'm going to do is jump right to Jake for a communications update.
All right, thank you. We met last week. Primarily, we really focused on some project milestone framework, something that Dan put together for the communications team. So really looking at the next 12 months about what sort of milestones we're going to be encountering. Obviously, this past most recent was the Career Industry Day. And going forward, the next big milestone would be the Bridge Aesthetics stakeholder reconnection. That'll be happening in the next month and a half. Then, of course, looking to provide communications around the 60% design milestone. And then later in the fall, looking at providing communication guidance related to our federal and state communications and our stakeholders. And so we will also be reaching out to the committees on some potential funding different scenarios for funding. And so we'll be soliciting some feedback from the commissioners on sort of how we deal with that information. So that'll be coming out here pretty soon. So all in all, we feel that our social media presence has been, on point. The website, we've gotten some good feedback, some positive feedback from the public. So all that is working very well. And that's all about I have, unless Commissioner Thomas has any additional notes, or Dan.
No,
All
I
right,
think
thank you, Jake.
you
Go
covered
ahead,
it.
Catherine.
Nope, I would say you covered it, Commissioner Edwards. Thank you.
Okay. Jake Anderson, would you be able to take us through the governance?
Yeah, I just heard from Arthur. He's still a little bit out, so happy to. You'll notice the big conversation that Arthur and I have been having is on the regards to the letter on the 6F, and I've sent that to Eric. And what we did is we took that letter that had a lot of I guess the conversation that Arthur and I had is that we've heard from the state and the feds multiple times that you can't qualify something that is a transportation project as a recreational project. And they were pretty serious about that. And so our comments were, let's write a letter that we can use to elevate this at the time. And I believe Mike Shannon cut that letter down one last time, or some staff did. And Arthur and I we were good with it, and I believe that got sent out. So hopefully, have we heard a response from them yet, Mike?
We have not sent it out yet. I wanted to see if you wanted to brief the committee first. That was the 6F item I wanted to add to the action items, was just to see if any of the other commissioners would like to read the letter. Yourself, Arthur, and the two co-chairs have looked at it, but if others would like to take a look at it, I can send it to them if you're okay with moving forward on current recommendation, then we can go ahead and get it sent out.
I think Arthur and I are both good with it going out. So if there's no other comments from any of the other commissioners, we've already been told no a few times. I think what we want to do is sit down and have the discussion. And I know the port's really interested in, this as well. I mean, this is a lot of money, well over $3 million. And we're trying to do everything we can to make this thing fit within a budget.
Okay. I'm comfortable with the letter going out, and I want to thank Arthur and Jacob for kind of keeping on that. And I think it's a lot cleaner and more succinct, and it kind of leaves the detail for a discussion. I think that's a good approach. Maybe right in the middle of this report, maybe we could just go to this as an action item about what we do with that letter. Not everybody's seen the letter. I think there's a couple options. We could share that letter so everybody could see it. We can go ahead and approve it to send it out and share it with everybody so everybody can see it and is aware of what we're doing. But I think last time we said that we were going to have Jake and Arthur kind of champion that letter and get it to a point, and then we were going to revisit it today on how we go forward. So I'm happy to take suggestions there. I'm happy with it. I just as soon see it move so that we can kind of get this out, and we need to have a discussion with the port, I think, as well, and make sure that they're on board. So yeah, Mark, you're fine. Do we need to take a vote on that, or what are people's feeling is what I'm asking.
I'm appreciative that you guys got really putting time into it. And, I don't personally have any concerns that if that group has reviewed the letter and feel good about it, that seeing it before it goes out, and I would like to read it just for witness.
So I guess what I would suggest is that we go ahead and proceed with getting the letter finalized and sent out. In the meantime, we just share it for people's information.
Send out means to the port?
Yeah, I think we need to. I think there were a couple items that we wanted to make sure that the port was kind of on board with what we were suggesting before it went off.
I think that's the next steps.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Jacob. Anything else that you want to throw our way?
No, we haven't had another meeting with the port. I believe they are working at getting us the numbers from our previous negotiations. So there were a couple, our discussions, I would say. They had a couple of things to do on their end. We had a couple of things to do on our end, but that's not for open session.
Great, thank you. So that concludes committee reports. So we do have new business. I'm going to stumble with this. We're going to do a public budget hearing meeting. So that's our meeting within a meeting. And the goal of that is to adopt the budget that we previously had a resolution on, or partial approval or something. But this is the public's opportunity for comment. So we'll do open public comment, 3 minutes per person, 30 minutes aggregate. We have one person here in the room who is choosing not to comment. Do we have anybody online that would like to comment? Seeing none, I will close public comment. Someone's going to have to help me here with the verbiage here on the next part. So we're just.
I can jump in and help out here. So so the budget committee met on May 11th and approved the budget. That's what the state uses as terminology, is that they approved the budget. And now that was the entire budget committee, which is like 12 members. Now it comes back to the commission to actually approve it. And we could make changes, but none have been suggested. And I don't have any suggestions for changes at this time. So the way I prepared the resolution was just to adopt the same budget that the budget committee approved on May 11th. And so all you have to do at this point, unless there's anybody that wants any changes or wants comments or whatever, all you have to do at this point is adopt the resolution that, or pass the resolution that adopts the budget. So that's all we need at this point now, unless anybody again has comments or wants to change anything.
You want to make a resolution, Ben?
I would, but I'm not voting. Can I still do it?
I think you can make the resolution.
All right, I'll make the resolution. Be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners of the Hood River White Cement Bridge Authority hereby adopts the budget for fiscal year 2026 to 2027 in the total.
No. You need to move to pass the resolution first.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So I move to adopt resolution 2026-04.
Is that what you were reading?
Well,
no, I got ahead of it.
I will second that.
I think we're just trying to adopt the budget. That doesn't have it on there though.
And all you actually have to do is just pass the resolution. That's all you have to do at this point.
Okay.
So I just moved to pass the resolution, and Jake Anderson seconded that motion.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Yes.
Of adopting the budget? Aye. Please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Oh, we got Mike's papers off the. So now we're out of that meeting and we're back into our regular meeting. You did the success. There's no yeah. So you want to take us through those?
Yeah, so on the informational items, I'm going to turn this over to James. He's got James, can you share your screen?
Share my screen.
Yeah, can we make sure that works?
How's that?
Yep, we can see that. If you go into presentation mode, it'll make it a little bigger, but
I'll go into presentation mode in just a second. I wanted to I'll say thanks for the opportunity to talk about the bridge monitoring program, and I've talked about this a couple times in previous meetings, but I've never really went into full detail on it. So for everybody's enjoyment and understanding and knowledge, I kind of wanted to open up and show a little bit more behind the curtain of what's going on in this monitoring program. So first thing I wanted to do is, and I'll go into presentation mode here. It's going to go to a different screen for me. Is it all right if I just stay like this? Can you see it okay, Mike?
yeah, that'll work okay. At least for in this room, it will.
Okay. So I wanted to go through like why we're doing what we're doing. So this is the geotechnical profile from 2023. So this is kind of current data. We've been out there doing some borings over the past 6 months that's refreshed this data. But what we found is that, I'm going to go zoom into this area here. What we found, and most people in this room know this, but this is just a visual representation of what's going on out there. The existing bridge, this is Pier 10, 11, 12, 13. There's portions of the existing bridge that are pile founded, that are on beds of gravel and or in sand, that when they were installed in the 20s and 30s, they are not touching bedrock. So what you're seeing here is this red dotted line is where they thought bedrock was way back when. They drew a pile that touched those locations, and then, but in reality, they're not on bedrock, which you can see here in the dark gray. And then there are some, as you get closer to the Washington side, there are portions of the bridge that are founded directly on the bedrock. And so this is just an example here of what we have from 2026, exactly where the bridge is going to go. We've went into each shaft location and drilled a hole, and we just completed that last week. We've drilled a hole in each shaft location to find out exactly where bedrock is and what's the quality of the rock in those locations. So I'm not going to get into a lot of any detail on this, but the bridge monitoring program is kind of hand in hand with the test pile program that we're going to want to do this next in-water work window. And currently, when we start talking about the test pile program, there's basically 4 locations and about 4 pile that we want to install in each of those locations. And this has been like this ongoing discussion that since Kiewit's gotten on board with the authority, just talking about how we're going to monitor the existing bridge and what kinds of checks and balances, so to speak, we're going to have to make sure that we don't do any harm to the existing bridge. So there are some past examples of where things have not went very well on different jobs. This is a job in Iowa over the Mississippi River, where they started driving pile next to an existing bridge, and the existing bridge started to move too much. Here's another bridge. This is in British Columbia, where there was a timber bridge next to an area where some pile was being driven. They started seeing some differential settlement, meaning like one side of the bridge starts settling more than the other side of the bridge, and they had to go install some shoring. This is another example from one of the SMEs on the project of where they had to go and install angle iron and stuff to help shore up the bridge. And that's just where we're trying to be proactive on this and get ahead of it. Any questions on any of that?
James, are those examples all done by Kiewit?
No. One of them was, the one in British Columbia was, the other 2 were other contractors.
Do you have solid data that shows the actual depth of the current bridge piers?
Well, it's data from when the bridge piers were constructed, and so it's data from the 20s and 30s. So, some of the data that we have, Jake, is off of a drawing that says install pile, 25 feet below, blah, 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 and then to what the requirements were for proofing the pile. So there is some as-built information there, but it's only as accurate as we want to assume it is from archived information. So next, I want to talk about the actual bridge monitoring. And so there's different components of the bridge monitoring, and I'll walk through what those all are. But the objective, as Mike kind of talked about earlier in this meeting, is to develop a baseline of how the bridge moves under normal circumstances, and that way we can compare that circumstances to compare to during construction operations. This is an example of some of the drawings that we have. This is the level of detail that we have, and so there are 20 piers on the bridge, This is the Oregon side as it works across to the Washington side. This is after the lift span has been installed. That's what we're working with. This is what it looks like. We have a rope access team when they're actually out there installing the different sensors on the piers. And so, getting to these locations is not necessarily easy. And special thanks to the Port of Hood River letting us get up on the bridge and do this work. This is the same rope access team that the Port of Hood River uses to do their inspections and that sort of stuff. So they're very familiar with how to get to the different spots on the bridge. Now I'm going to walk through the various the various sensors that we have. So first up is some tilt sensors. So I'll show you a picture here of the tilt sensor installed on the bridge, but the tilt sensor, it gathers data in one axis only. So consider like the transverse or the longitudinal direction of the bridge. So when we install them, you can see here there's two separate tilt sensors on the bridge. This is it located. One is oriented, with the direction of traffic on the bridge, and the other one is perpendicular to traffic on the bridge, so we can tell if the pier is tilting one way or the other. The next thing that is up there is the vibration sensors. It's the Syscom, this red box here. You can see it circled on the bridge. That measures the vibration in the bridge in, what do we figure, Mike? It's inches per second?
Yeah.
And that's the standard that vibration and that acceleration is measured. These boxes don't have internal batteries. They're powered by a battery that's installed on the bridge, and then there's a solar panel that's charging those batteries to keep them charged. The next thing that we have out there is survey monitoring equipment. So we installed for primary control, we set up two total stations, which is a survey instrument, one on Mount Adams, or the top of Mount Adams Fruit, and then another one in the SDS yard. And those have the ability to see the bridge and see prisms that are mounted on the bridge. I'll show you a photo of that here in a second. But on the left, that's an example of what's up on top of Mount Adams Fruit. And you can see, I mean, it way off in the distance, it's a long ways away, but the survey instrument's powerful enough to survey those. And then the piers of the bridge move a little bit. And so in order for this survey instrument to like understand and be able to have fixity for itself and understand where it is in relationship to the world and verify that it's not moving, we have a series of back sites, we call them, but they're just really fixed sites out there that the instrument is checking the location on and closing the loop, so to speak. And Jake, if any questions about survey, I'm going to direct them to you. So this is one of the automated survey instruments that we have. The other one is at SDS. Here's an example of what the prisms look like on the actual piers of the bridge. They're mounted on the bridge, and the total stations can see those. Here's another example of a back site up on the side of White Salmon on the side of the hill there. Just as a note, one of the troubleshooting things that we've found is that you can see both of these prisms are directed towards Mount Adams and the SDS lumber survey instruments. those survey instruments being robotic they were not able, because the minute of angle between these two prisms, the minute of angle is so slight that the robot is not quite able to just always fixate on one of these prisms. So what we did is we turned one of the prisms towards the Best Western on the Oregon side, and then one of the prisms we verified can be seen by both Mount Adams and the SDS unit. So what that allows us to do is, if we have the need or want, we can set up a temporary total station down on the shoreline, on the Oregon shoreline, and we can shoot the piers from there. And this is an example. An example of when we might want to do something like that would be during the actual pile driving process. When we're installing pile, we could be shooting from Mount Adams and SDS and here, and there's another option if we want to go out on the point, and we could put survey prisms on the other side on specific locations if we wanted to take shots there. Any questions about any of that or comments? So
I have a couple questions. Did you consider putting like any sensors near the base of the piers, like actually in the sediment, to record movement at that location?
No, we figured that any movement at the base of the piers would translate up to the top of the piers.
So James, I have a question, and all of the sensors are working to give a full awareness of the entire bridge?
No, and I'll show you which ones are working and which ones that we're still having difficulty with here in a second. Got a little graphic on that. Hey, if there's no more questions on the survey stuff, I'm going to move on to the air gap monitor and go through that, and then Catherine, I'll hit your question directly. So the air gap monitor, or the tide sensor, it's really a measurement to tell us where the water level is. So this is a photo of what it looks like on our bridge. It's located at the base of the stairs that go up to the control station. So it's located in this area off of that platform. So last week or 2 weeks ago when I spoke, we're having some issues with this. So the original plan was for the air gap monitor to communicate to the weather station, and then the weather station is already transmitting data to where we're collecting it. What we were told is that all of this would work, and we were told that by the people that make the communication tools. Come to find out, it doesn't. I don't know the details, but this is the communication system it tries to communicate in, and it was unable to talk to each other. So what we've updated the plan, and this is something we talked with the group on Friday, is we're going to go to a cellular transmitter that's going to transmit information from the air gap monitor directly via cellular network, and we think that that's going to be a lot more reliable. The last sensor that we have out there is we have a weather station up on top of the tower. Here's an example of this is some of the rainfall gauges, information that's coming in. This is wind and temperature data that's coming in. And so all of that data is being collected and stored on the server. And all of this, what's really kind of interesting and unique about this is is, I mean, the people that we're working with, they're used to like having their one sensor transmit individually, but the benefit that we have is all of this is transmitting through a Trimble 4D control system, so it's all being captured in real time, and it lines up, timing wise with different things. So this is the um, the web page that we can go to, the dashboard, so to speak, and then like this is the level of detail of information that we're getting. I pulled up Pier 3 for the April to May, mid-May. And so this is the level of information that we're getting for the piers for the vibration sensors. This is the level of detail for the tilt sensors in the east direction, and then the south direction that we're getting for the tilt sensors. So I don't want to go into the detail of all of those right now, but there's plenty of data coming in. We just selected 3 different piers out there to put in this presentation, and make sure everybody's aware that this information is coming in. And then to answer your question directly, what I did is I made up this kind of a heat map, Catherine. And so this is Pier 1, Pier 2, Pier 3. So I added all of the piers across to Pier 20. And so all of the tilt sensors are in and reporting data. The vibration sensors, as Mike alluded to earlier in the meeting, we have 2 of them that are not functioning and not transmitting data, but the other 18 are. The survey monitoring from the east side, which would be Mount Adams and from SDS, just because of the trees and things, they can't quite see the prisms on Pier 19 and 20. But if we're monitoring that from the best western side, we can get a lock on those. And then the last thing is the tide sensor, and I probably should just pull that down to one of these squares, but the tide sensor being over the navigation channel, it's gathering data. It just can't transmit the data right now, and we got to get that fixed. And the weather station is working.
And James, just for everybody's, the east side and west side are kind of a redundancy system, right?
Yes. Of the survey, yeah.
Yeah. So the fact that we don't have those 2 is just we don't have the redundancy at those 2 locations, but over all the rest of them, we've got redundancy.
Still have data.
Still have data. We're still collecting it. We just don't have the backup for those 2 because of the trees, and we weren't allowed to go cut them. So.
There's specific piers that are not in bedrock. Can you show us on that map? I'm just seeing if it's where we don't have full green picture, James.
The piers that are not in bedrock are from here. It's either 16 or 17, somewhere in there. Let me go back up and look. It was on that map. Oh, wrong way. So Pier 13 to the north, it appears as though those are in bedrock. There might be a couple around that's 13, 14. There's a couple in there that might not be on bedrock, but the last 2 I think are.
Primarily, it's that yellow area, Catherine, that you see that they're not on bedrock.
Everything from like Pier 2 to
It's about Pier 3 to 12 roughly is not on.
Have we learned anything from the monitoring we've been doing? I mean, do we have comparison that we can say this bridge moves a lot or doesn't move a lot, or is that not meaningful?
That's what we're looking at now, is to establish a baseline for the bridge. So now that we've got everything kind of functioning and we've collected data for a few months, that's the next step, is to really get in and normalize that, put some statistics to the numbers that we have and figure out what our average is and our means are and what's the deviations. And that's what we want to do next. And then take that and look at it compared to whatever criteria is out there for allowable movements and see where we are.
The other thing that I wanted to bring up, I meant to bring it up a little earlier, is that, this was a discussion that started like in the phase 1A timeframe. And we did this investigation of what types of instruments and stuff we could put on. We were able to, as a team, we were able to not have to spend any more budget than was already allowed for phase 1A to do all of this work. So this was not part of the original scope of phase 1A, but it was able to be added into the scope of phase 1A at no additional cost. So this is really kind of a success story to be able to have this as part of the program thus far.
Kevin, it looks like you have a question.
Well, it's not so much a question, just maybe, I don't know, words of wisdom, having managed the bridge for a few years. We do see slight structural changes to the bridge during very hot periods. And so, we do see minor fluctuations during very, very hot temperatures and very, very cold temperatures. And so I think any baseline, at least would be my recommendation, that would cover both of those types of scenarios.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and that's the reasoning behind trying to get this on the bridge early, is to be able to see how the wind affects it, how the temperature affects it. Because I expect that when the temperature gets hot, it's going to expand, and there's going to be different movements on the bridge.
Question. Yeah. James, can you speak to, I'm sure that this is kind of one of those questions that are really, I'm sure is going to be nearly impossible to answer, but just for like somebody that's never been through this type of scenario, as we're looking at doing this style program, can you provide just even like an anecdotal explanation of how doing this test pile program early could save us significantly to find out that the bridge is going to move, more than is appropriate under driving the test piles than if we waited until, we have the construction equipment out and are needing to drive the test piles anyways?
Yeah, I guess the best way to describe it right now, Ben, is that if we go out there this first in-water work window and drive some pile, and we're going out there with a kind of a minimum amount of personnel, a minimum amount of equipment, and it gives us the opportunity to kind of test a few things out, and you don't have everything else in the world waiting on you to go. So if it takes us an extra couple of days to do this test pile program and learn a few things, I think that's very beneficial, versus going out there during construction and you have the entire equipment fleet there. It could get really expensive really quickly if there were delays.
James, do you have a rough per day cost that you'll be looking at when you get to construction, or what you've seen on other jobs?
What I've seen on other jobs is it's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars a day, somewhere between, I'd say, $150,000 to $300,000 a day is what I've seen on other large projects.
So we'd have a per day cost of that for them to sit and figure this out.
Okay.
At least that much.
That's all. So it's less about like being able to have, coming up with a better design than we otherwise would have, than more just minimizing construction delays.
Or just
once
more
it's
knowing
risk
mitigation.
Yeah, it's risk mitigation to know whether or not we would have an issue so that we could redesign if we found out. If we get out there and drive the first pile when the bridge starts to move, hopefully it doesn't move too much. We would have to figure out how to protect the existing bridge from that, right? And we would want to do that now rather than having, $300,000 worth of equipment sitting out there every day, not doing anything.
Yeah, the other thing to be aware of, Ben, is that we're doing this work, this critical work inside of the in-water work window, which is 160 days of the year, between October and March. And so if you do have a delay in there, you're also kind of wasting that time that you are able to work in the water. And as soon as the end date hits, then you have to stop no matter what. So it allows us to do that ahead of time and then gives us some breathing room maybe to come up with solutions if we need them.
The other thing that we'll get out of it is some environmental information about how maybe some of the protection stuff works, but also production rates potentially of how long it takes to drive something or how hard the material is, how much problems does it really have getting through certain materials. So it'll give us some construction scheduling and production productivity information as well. All right, Jake has the same.
Are we able to access this document?
You will be the document or the data?
The presentation.
Yeah, we can get it on SharePoint somewhere.
Jake?
Yeah, I was just wondering if you, from the weather data, if you're seeing if it matches up with what was on the Oregon side and what we had access to before. I guess my concern is going to be those winds and your ability to fly steel in and what that looks like so far. Have you been able to review any of that data?
We have not reviewed any of that data and matched it up with anything yet.
Any other questions for James?
I got one more. Does the water level impact pile driving, and would it be worth reaching out to the Army Corps about either raising or lowering the water level to mitigate impact to the current bridge?
So, the water level doesn't necessarily have an effect on the pile driving. We thought that the water level may affect how the bridge moves. And it also is a good indication for us to determine like how much draft we're going to have in different locations on the bridge, especially like on the Washington side, to see if there was a fluctuation in that over time. Right now, we're not seeing a very large fluctuation in the water level for the data that we've seen. And then to answer your other question, Jake, like we have for the geotechnical borings, there was an opportunity for us to do some borings closer to the Washington shore, but we couldn't get in there because the water was too low. And so we were able to talk with people down at Bonneville and get them to temporarily hold back a little bit more water and fill up the pool and get us an extra foot or so of draft. And then we could move the barge in as for like a day or two for drilling. And then they lowered the water level.
Upcoming items, I don't think we need to go through that.
Hey, James, I just had a quick question for you. You showed a few charts that we are able to access via webpage and whatnot. We're able to pull the raw data from the sensors as well, right? Not just have pre-populated charts, but actually have the raw data off these sensors so we can create our own data or display our own data, correct?
I don't know the answer to that, Grant. I would assume yes, but I can get back with you on that.
Yeah, if you can give us a definite answer on that, because that way, if we have the raw data, then we can create our own charts or any actual data analysis that we or anyone else may need, since we'll have the actual data and information using these sensors. That'd be great.
Yep.
Thanks.
And one thing I would say within the next month or so, we'll be coming back kind of with the data and what's available to you. And for you all to think about how you want to share or what you want to share. I don't know that anybody can do anything really with it. It'll tell you, well, the bridge moved this much or did this much. That's all it's really going to tell you. Because there's nothing in there that says, here's an alarm bell or, here's a critical thing. But if somebody wants to just go see a bunch of data or, they can. I don't know if there's anything harmful in that people see it.
We can boil it and start using it to determine swell quality.
They might for the weather station. I think with that though, with data becomes the risk of somebody doing their own analysis without the backup and inferring things or developing things and putting them out there and saying things that maybe are not factual. So that's the only part that you need to take into account is,
I mean, I'd be interested to know, like, does the public have access to similar data on the Golden Gate Bridge or the Brooklyn Bridge? For that reason, is uncontextualized data, making it available to the public, is that actually a thing that serves public interests, given what you just said?
We could look into that and see what other bridges do. They're collecting data.
I'd like to know that.
Yeah, I don't know. Kevin Greenwood, do you know or Dan, you might know too, is Cascades, I know they're monitoring their bridge. Is they putting their data out?
They are monitoring. I don't believe it's public.
Yeah.
I can confirm that though.
Some of it becomes a little bit of a security issue, right? That do you really want to put out publicly a weak spot and have somebody, you just don't know what people might do. So there's somewhat of a security risk of it.
I'm hoping before we get too far into that discussion, we are able to have some real open discussions with the port and their engineer of record for the existing bridge, and just kind of have a pretty good open discussion about what we have, how we're going to use it. What do the engineers that have been managing the bridge currently think it's telling us? And
we've got a plan to meet with the port GECs and go through some of that with them once we get a chance to now digest some of this data and start to do that. So
it does seem like port should sign off on whatever the data, if there is data sharing that they have a chance to give input on that.
Yeah, it's really their bridge that we're putting data out on.
For context, I can imagine use for our own or the port's internal use, even before it would even go out for public consumption, exclusive to our own use. So there's two sides to this whole thing. So before we even delve into making this available to public, I can imagine a lot of internal uses for this data, should we even have access to it. The first answer is, can we even get this data? And that's the question I had for James, is can we even get access to the raw data first? So before we answer the second question, we have to answer the first one. Thanks.
Well, that concludes our formal agenda for today. And I'm prepared to close the meeting unless there's somebody that wants to offer something up for the good of the order. Kevin?
Yeah, I appreciate the conversation that you guys had regarding the 6F letter. And the only thing I want to say is the Port Commission has not seen that letter. And so before you send that out with the port's name on that, make sure that someone gets that to our board. They're meeting next Tuesday, and we're putting our packet together Wednesday of this week. So if somebody can do a cover letter with what you're doing and can kind of explain what's happening, that would be great.
Yeah, you're the next step, Kevin.
Yeah, this is the first time seeing it.
Yeah.
The other option, I believe the port's name's only in there one time. You could just remove the port's name from the letter. and make it from the bridge authority, not including the port?
Let's be stronger with both of us.
Well, and the port has to be a part of this. They are actually the impacted agency that's responsible for the 6F encumbrance. We're just the impacting agency, so I think they'll have to be a part of the conversation. So we'll send that either today or tomorrow, Kevin. You'll see that.
Great. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
Okay. If nobody has anything to add, I'm going to go ahead and close this meeting. Our next meeting will be Monday, June 22nd, right here, same place. Thank you, everyone.